Okay, and that looks like, according to the button in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, that we are live for the last couple of seconds. So hello, everyone. I have no idea how many viewers we have online today because we're trying a new application called Crowdcast, which apparently allows us to stream both within the application and also to Facebook Live and other channels as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops over time. But because it's a new application, I would ask you to please bear with me today. I'm finding my way after a couple of days of exploring the application, and it's, pretty intuitive. Anyway, the purpose of today is to have a conversation about the power of Mojo for social good, about empowering people and giving them a voice. And this is part of the series of chats that I'll be doing on a monthly basis for the next few months anyway. We'll see how it goes as part of the Thompson Foundation Journalism Now platform. I would love you to be involved. Over here on the right-hand side on my screen, I don't know where it is on your screen, there is a chat panel. So I see that we have a number of people joined us already. Joseph, Iago, Patricia, and Phyllis, Mike, and Hussam are all online. So I'm going to say verbally hello to all of you. As we go through the chat, we'll periodically look over here to see if there's any questions being fired at our two guests. And I'll do my best to make sure that we actually respond to you. Hi, Len. Thanks for joining the chat as well. So without further ado, because I think, let's keep this moving along nice and swiftly. In my screen, just up there, is Eleanor Mannion. And I'm going to invite Eleanor straight into the main screen, if this works. Yay, look, it works. Hey, Eleanor.
Hi, Glenn.
Can everyone just confirm for me at this point if you can hear both me and Eleanor over there? That would be really useful, just so we know. Yes, fantastic, great. So no more faffing around, let's get straight into it. So for those who are on the stream, and they probably actually, to be perfectly honest, I recognize a lot of those names. They're probably all Mojo people from the conference background, but you spoke at Mojo Con 3 2 years ago, and at the time you were talking a lot about your documentary. But for those who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are? In like 30 seconds, under no pressure.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I work in RTE, the public service broadcaster in Ireland. And in 2014, I trained up with yourself and Philip Bromwell as a mobile journalist. And since then, I filmed and directed a 1-hour TV documentary called The Collectors for RTE1. And it was filmed in 4K on an iPhone 6S Plus. And RTE was first broadcaster in Europe to broadcast a documentary made that way. And since then, I've continued on with the mobile journalism, and I'm part now of the digital first team within the RTE newsroom with Philip Bromwell, making content bespoke for our online and social platforms, and then also repurposing those stories for television as well.
Okay, very good. So let's tease it, because this is the meat of this story, isn't it? Really, this idea of the digital first team. Yeah. Is there a difference between the type of stories that the digital first team do and what might be featured, say, in the first half of the typical evening news bulletin?
Yeah, so anyone who knows how a newsroom works knows that, like, usually there's a morning conference, there's a diary, there's there's a home list planning the events of the day. Our stories are off diary, so we're looking for things that aren't happening in the main with the main events. We use programs like Crowdcast to monitor what's going on in social media. We've lists of interesting topics that we are interested in, like homelessness, LGBT rights, various charities, youth groups, and we monitor their social media to see what they're talking about. So our stories tend to be off diary, human interest. They tend to be from one person's personalized, from one person's point of view, and that person is the face of maybe a bigger problem or issue or something that's happening in Ireland today. So, for example, this week we've published a story about a 14-year-old girl, Claudia, who has a very rare skin condition called epidermolysis bullosa, and she talks about how she lives with that skin condition. My colleague Jimmy Beattie published a story about children with disabilities who play Zimmer frame football, and that has done extremely well for us this week in terms of viewership, but also audience engagement across Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, so are those the three core platforms that you're publishing to? Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram is the core market?
Yeah, they're the key. We obviously do an article for the website. We publish to Twitter, we publish to Facebook, we publish to Instagram. Either just a 1 minute square. We have done vertical series which we put onto Instagram TV as well. But mainly we publish. We can publish square to Instagram, or we can do an Instagram story of the day around our story. But as I said, a lot of times our stories then are repurposed for television as well, for our main news bulletins.
Okay, so let's dip into what is kind of unique about the Digital First team.
Sue just asked there, we're not on Snapchat, no, Sue.
Is that just because you don't like Snapchat? I don't like Snapchat. I don't mind saying that out loud. But is that because you don't like Snapchat, or because you just feel that the audience, based on metrics and blah blah blah, the audience is just not there for this content, or what? Corporately, we just haven't engaged as a newsroom. We just haven't engaged with Snapchat yet, and there was talk of doing it. And then our Instagram account, we put a lot of work into. Our Instagram and our social media editors put a lot of work into increasing the engagement that we get on Instagram, and that has been extremely successful. So that's where we're pooling our resources to at the moment. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the production methodology, because I know how you do, because I used to work for RTE. If you don't know what my background is, I probably should have said that at the start, instead of being arrogant and just assuming you know who I am. But anyway, never mind, plenty of time for that later. So yeah, talk to us about the production methodology and what's different about it from traditional news gathering.
Yeah, it can be quite complicated, but I mean, and you have to think it through, because when you're delivering to various platforms, you have to think about what that platform needs and how they need it. So, for example, myself and Philip worked on a series called Post to the Pope, because Pope Francis came to visit Ireland there recently. And it was the first time a Pope has come to visit Ireland since 1979. And in 1979, it was a huge deal, and half the population ended up being called John Paul. I'm exaggerating slightly, but it was a huge deal. But since then, Ireland has changed greatly. So there was kind of a huge interest in how this Pope's visit would be received. So myself and Philip Bramwell worked on a series of vertical videos for our social platforms. So we delivered them vertical to Instagram TV, to Facebook, to Twitter, and to YouTube. But we also needed to deliver that content to our RTE player, which is like our playback system here in Ireland. Like the iPlayer is the BBC version. So for that, they needed to be 16:9. And then at the end of our series, we needed to deliver a collage of those posts to our main evening, to the 6-1 news and the 9 o'clock news. So again, a 16:9 version. So for that, we were delivering in vertical, and we were also delivering in 16:9, which is literally the opposite of each other. So we filmed all our content in 4K. And so we were keeping the quality, and we filmed it in 16:9. And then we used LumaFusion to deliver that content horizontally in vertical video, and then to repurpose it again then to 16:9. We subtitle all our content when it's going on social to increase the engagement, because as people are scrolling through their news feeds, they're not usually listening or clicking into videos. So you're more likely to engage a person if you've got subtitles on your video. But we also try to play around with our subtitles and our visuals to make them really striking and engaging as well. So those first 3 seconds or 5 seconds of your video are really crucial. So we usually have a really strong kind of opening image that maybe only lasts a few frames if the person hasn't autoplay switched on, with this really strong title that kind of engages the audience. And then again, within the first 5 seconds of the video, we really try to hook them in with strong visuals, and both in terms of our pictures, but also in terms of our graphics and how we word our stories. So I'm trying to think. We use music, and which isn't generally used on TV news bulletins. And we generally look for younger people as well, because the platforms that we're delivering to generally have a younger audience. And a lot of times we use what we call eye direct, where the person is speaking to the lens of the camera, which generally you're used to people talking to the invisible reporter off screen, but we get them to engage with the audience down the lens, which again adds into our workflow. If we know, if beforehand at the planning meeting, the 6-1 News editor says, I'm definitely interested in Eleanor's story for the 6, then I know that I have to shoot my interview 2 ways, so that I can get the person to look down the barrel of the lens, but I might throw a couple of questions where I get them to look at me. So when it goes on TV, then it's the classic TV interview shot. And then for my social video, it's that shot.
Straight down the lens. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I think is really interesting by when you describe all that is that you didn't even mention the fact that you do everything on mobile.
Oh no, I
because
didn't.
I
Sorry,
guess
just
it's
so
just
used.
second nature now.
It's just a given.
I know it's a Mojo chat, but
sorry.
Since I left RT, I've been in quite a few organizations, and it is still the exception.
Yeah, so we myself and my team, we all use iPhones. We're standardized on iPhones and RTE, so we use iPhones to film. We use our iPhones to edit. We do have one iPad Pro which we use for the finer details of editing, so that is really great for. And we use Filmic Pro to film and LumaFusion to edit. And what's great about LumaFusion is you can start an edit on your phone and you can airdrop that project to the iPad, and it keeps all your edit details there, your timeline and everything. So then we have an iPad Pro with a larger screen that we use, a larger screen and an actual keyboard attached to it that we use for subtitling and the finer audio editing and graphic editing as well. So yeah, sorry.
Very good. No, that's okay.
And we use it. We're always experimenting. Filmic Pro and LumaFusion are our 2 main apps, but we're always experimenting with like different apps to get different effects, like Prisma or Ollie or even Legend or I use Pick Play Post there again recently. So there's always kind of looking for different apps to kind of achieve different effects as well.
Yeah. I'm just noticing the questions over here on the right-hand side of my screen. Don't know where it is for you guys, but Phyllis, the Edinburgh reporter, said, do you put subtitles on all your video formats? And Sue asked, what about using a second camera to adjust for eye lines? So you record the interview both head-on and off-center to basically do your look-off screenshot.
I think adding a second camera would just complicate it. It's very easy to just have the person, you've them set up, you've their beautifully framed interview shot on one camera. So all it takes is the interviewer, which is me, to just kind of go, okay, now look at me for this question, as opposed to moving the subject, So I just think one camera is perfect for that.
Okay.
And there's no need to overcomplicate it. And then do we use, for all, so when we're delivering our content to social and online, all our content is subtitles. But obviously then if it's delivered to TV, it's not subtitles.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it probably is live further down the chain, but not on screen, right? Not burnt in subtitles, as they say. No,
I mean, there's a subtitling facility in RTE, on all RTE output, yeah.
Output, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm really, really intrigued by this because clearly, again, based on the experiences that I've had, not a lot of organizations have pushed Mojo boundaries this far. A lot of the organizations I've been in since I've left RTE do training tend to just shoot and then let the editing happen on laptops or in the main newsroom system, and the graphics is all done traditionally as it would be for any other content shot in an ENG camera or whatever else it might be. So I'm intrigued. Obviously the production methodology is a lot more cost efficient, let's say, than a €50,000 ENG kit, and you're doing everything yourself. So again, it's the single person Mojo thing, which is, I guess, the essence of what today's chat is about, this idea of empowering people as creators and giving people a voice. So I get the editorial.
I do think it also empowers the interviewee, and I know we've talked about this before, but when it's just you coming to someone who's not used to being filmed, that's talking about something very personal to them, I do think it helps that it's just you that's there and not you and a whole crew of people. And that's been said to me several times over the course of the last year, especially, that they're relieved when it's just me. And like obviously tell them beforehand, and that kind of does persuade them to take part in an interview if they know it's just one person. It's less intimidating.
Yeah,
it can be less intimidating.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the person behind the camera, right? But okay. So question for you, what about audience response? Like, have you had an opportunity to measure the engagement with the audience? Like, do you have any metric shares? Is there any information like that available?
Yeah, so we're always monitoring, like obviously we monitor our audience engagement using like Facebook Insights, but we also use CrowdTangle as well, which helps us monitor the engagement. So our videos always perform within the top 10, even the top 5 every week of the output of RTE News. So our videos always, it's not just in terms of views, but in terms of engagement, like the engagement, and by that I mean the likes, the actual commenting, the tagging people's names in this you'll enjoy this, Mary, watch this. The shares, our content, always it scores really highly for engagement and for views, so we're always monitoring that. We perform, a lot of our stories perform very well with women as well on Facebook. In particular, we score well with the 25 to 34 and the 45 to 54 category with women, which is really good for us, because our profile for television news would be more male dominated. So it's nice to know that our profile for Facebook is more female dominated. And some of the most watched videos that have been output by RC News are from the MOJO team. Our highest still, I think, is Hiromi. Hiromi did a story about knitted octopuses for premature babies. And that has gone, the last time I checked, it was 6.5 million. I'm not sure what it is now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we regularly, we've gone over the million mark a good few times now, which is, for when you consider that our Facebook page has 500,000 likes, that's, really impressive. Yeah, so and we monitor where they go as well, which is really good. So I had a story about a child with cerebral palsy who once a week does he does therapy pony riding, which helps keeps his muscles kind of loosened, but also helps with his digestion, because he's mainly in a wheelchair, and this helps with his digestion and his movement and everything. And when I monitored the engagement on that story, it actually took off in America. It was really interesting to see that it was shared on a few therapy Facebook pages in America. So it was big in America, but it is interesting to watch where they go. Other kind of, and they're always, it's the stories that do well are always, and they're the stories that we make. And I know Philip talked about this at the Mojo Fest in Galway this year. We have 3 kind of tenets. They're kind of like a manifesto that we try to subscribe to, which is, with our videos, we want to make you think, we want to make you feel, and give you a voice. And when we hit all 3 of those, they're the ones that just they go viral, they go around the world, and it's really amazing to watch and monitor who's sharing them and how they're sharing them. And in particular, when you see people starting to tag their friends because they think of someone else, that's when you know
saw this and thought of you, basically.
That's the point where you're like, oh, this is going to do very well, because when people start tagging their friends, that's you've got an amazing engagement there.
Okay, very good. I know you're under pressure for time, so I'm not going to steal you away, because you've been kind enough to offer up half your day already between tests and everything earlier on. There's 3 questions I just want to touch on this really, really quickly. So Len has just asked what's your kit. If it's okay, we might just say that to the end.
Yeah.
Patricia asked, are you causing the competition to experiment with Mojo, or are they still skeptical? And Phyllis asked, are you using Luma to extract audio only too? I guess what she means, are you using
and that
the
does
recording
happen,
and put it on radio?
Yeah, and I have done that with a couple of my reports that have gone onto our morning radio program here in the RT newsroom. And I would just use the extract audio as well. Yeah, that's a very good point.
What about the competition question?
Are you causing the competition to experiment with Mojo? Are you causing the competition to experiment with Mojo? Or are they still skeptical?
Are they responding? They hear this, how the audience is responding to Mojo and RT. Has anyone upped the ante?
No, I think the last year, myself and my team have done amazing work, and we have had amazing successes and stories that have really resonated. So I think the skepticism is well and truly gone,
Right.
I have had stories that I have, delivered to social, bespoke for social, done an Instagram story, written an article, and then that story has appeared on every single television bulletin that day. And when I mean every single one, I mean every, I had one in particular about sleeping bags being recovered from a music festival that were being washed by a charity and then being redistributed to the homeless. So it was a really nice story where something, something kind of negative where people had just abandoned their sleeping bags and there was a lot of waste at this music festival. The music festival allowed charities to go in and recover the sleeping bags and wash them and reuse them for the homeless. And that story was on, the 1, the 6, the 9, and the bulletin that went out after the Late Late Show, which is a huge rated bulletin at midnight as well. And when you're delivering those kind of stories, like the amount of response that we get from our colleagues here in the newsroom. So no, I don't think I think the skepticism is not there.
It's gone, no longer an issue. Okay, so what I might do is, as a comment there from Jane at the end saying, can you link to some of your content? Perhaps
Sure.
That's how we'll address Len's question about the kit as well, because I know at one stage Philip tweeted an image of the now standard Mojo kits that you're using as part of the digital first team. So again, I'm watching the clock. It is 12:20. So I have a final question for you, which is, I think what you've achieved to date is fantastic. Has there been any discussion about future plans about expanding the program or giving more resources or?
Well, we're kind of, so I suppose we're engaged, like I think people, RTE has really taken notice of our content as well, and we're kind of finding ourselves more and more engaging, not just with teams within the newsroom, but with teams outside the newsroom, but still within RTE. So so it's kind of exciting, like we're collaborating with digital and we're collaborating with current affairs a lot more as well. So we have, the last couple of big pictures that, Big Picture is a documentary that our current affairs department make, and it's usually all about trying to start a conversation about something important. So the last one was about youth mental health services in Ireland. So the documentary goes on is broadcast on the Thursday night, but every day in the run up that week they try to have content across all of RTE about that issue, and we've been brought in on those big pictures, and we're being brought in again on the next one even more so. So the next one is about gender equality, and we're being asked to kind of deliver content around that as well. So more and more we're kind of collaborating with different projects in RTE. So yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, it did. I think it's a fantastic achievement. I am biased. I used to work for RTE for 20 years. A lot of people know that, but at the same time, I think what you guys have achieved is phenomenal, and you definitely are pioneers in the space and deserve due credit for that. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to your Twitter account. So if people want to follow you, we can do that. And also they'll probably barrage you with questions, so you can thank me for that later. At the same time, Sarah Height is in Istanbul, and I'm just going to invite her in the conversation. I know you have to go, Eleanor, because you're going on to, you said an award ceremony, is that right?
That's
right.
Are you
getting an award?
Well, we're hoping to, fingers crossed, we're hoping to get an award for Post to the Pope, which I just explained about earlier. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, great.
So we'll let you know.
Yeah, please do. And there's Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
Bye.
So Eleanor's leaving us. Okay, great. Well, listen, really appreciate your time, Eleanor. Thanks a million for joining the chat. And hello to you, Sarah.
Hi, how are you, Glen?
Great, now thanks. Listen, so what I'd like to do to kick off is to give you a chance basically to introduce yourself to the audience. And there's about 46 people, I think, online at the moment. And this will be available for catch up with YouTube and Facebook and Crowdcast afterwards. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, how are you? I'm Sarah. I'm a video journalist and Mojo trainer. I usually train Syrian refugees in Lebanon and outside Lebanon. Currently, I'm in Istanbul to train them on photo story. I started Mojo since and a year and a half, like that, after attending a lot of workshops with the DW Academy in Lebanon. And I started last year to train in camps in Beirut, in South Lebanon, and in North Lebanon also with the Syrian refugees. And we work for Syrian refugees to let them speak using their mobile, using their photos, and let the world hear their stories where they are.
Okay, I think you just answered the entire 20-minute discussion in one answer. What are we talking about now? No, joking. Okay. First of all, for those who don't know who DW Academy are, I know you're freelance, but could you just explain a little bit about Deutsche Welle and their operations basically in the Middle East?
Yeah, usually DW Academy, they are interested in helping refugees and people who doesn't have any like they don't have anything to do. It's not anything like they are coming from war and they are living in bad condition in Lebanon. So they decide to have this training in Lebanon, to train Lebanese people or journalists usually, and then to let them train the Syrian refugees all over the camps and with other NGOs, local NGOs and international NGOs. DW work in Lebanon, it's not just for MOJO. They usually do training for governance, for media literacy, and a lot of training. But they focused on MOJO because they published a Facebook page called Camji. If you heard about it, Camji is focused in stories for refugees in camp. And this page also like accept new journalists, new refugee journalists. They are already trained by us from last training.
Okay, very good. So when you go into one of the refugee camps, is it just you doing the training on your own, or obviously there's other trainers, but not at the same time? You lead the course yourself.
Yeah, DW Academy and Basma and Zaytuna, usually they organize the training, and we are around 4 or 5 trainer on MOJO in Lebanon, and we do like around like I train for 1 week or 2 months and a half, and they train the other months, depends on our schedule and our also their schedule. Now we are in Lebanon in the last phase on video journalism. We start 6 months ago. We start with photo story and photography using just their mobile, and we have iPod. We give them iPod if they don't have like a good mobile with nice photos with good conditions. And now we train them. We are in training. Like we train them on video journalism, how to shoot, how to edit, and how to tell stories using their mobile. What we are doing now is like we are in storytelling phase. Like mobile journalism, it's like video journalism. You cannot like shoot any story just because you have the mobile. You have to do a treatment to choose your protagonist, to do everything about story. It's like video journalism. It's not like another thing. So yeah, we are now I guess it's in the hardest phase in training because storytelling is really hard. So now, we are training them on storytelling, and then they are going to shoot their final story to be published online. Where the story will be published? The story will be published in a blog. We already published a blog for them. It's called Mobile Journalism Camps or something like that. Maybe I can share with you the page later, but it's in Arabic.
Yeah, please do. You can share. There's a link here. Yeah.
But it's in Arabic. This blog, Basma and Zaytuna and Dochi Valley decide to have this blog to archive everything that we work with refugees, and also they can use later if they want to promote their work, if they want to like apply for any job opportunity later. So it's like an opportunity to them to let the other we are here and we do this kind of work, and this is our work, and you can see our work whenever you are.
Okay, very good. I'm just wondering, would you have any idea how many people have been trained as part of this program?
How many people? We have like 3 phases this year, and each phase like we have 10. Wait, I have to count it. Like
That's
10,
okay.
10. It's 20 in Tripoli and 14 in Beirut. The first phase like around 20, 40, 50, and 60. Each phase around 60 participants.
Each phase has got 60 participants. Wow.
And
okay.
we have 3 phases.
Okay.
And now
so 180 people.
And now in Beirut, it's the biggest class ever. I trained. It's around 25 participants.
Right. Wow. That's a big class.
25 participants. Like when I went to the training and they told me, this is our last chance. Please let them be here because it's overloaded, 25 and with 2 trainers. So we accept to have 25. Just we know that maybe we don't have any other opportunity to them. They can be here even if we are like 25. They can learn, they can shoot, and they can know how to use their mobile to tell stories.
And what's the feedback like, or what has the feedback been like from the participants? Like, do they see it as just something to buy their time, or is it something they really see as a pipeline to, you know, as you said, maybe they see it as a way to get a job? Or
yeah, they are really interesting in this training. They are really enjoying everything. They are enjoying storytelling. They are enjoying the 5-shot, the editing. And they are really happy to be with us and to learn more, because they don't have any other options. Even in Lebanon, I don't know if you know the situation of Syrian refugees in Lebanon, also the refugees, also Palestinian refugees. So they are living in very bad conditions, and it's really hard to them to find job, and also it's really hard to them to go school and university. And this is opportunity to them to learn and to let them be exist or do something in a place that maybe our place, our country, doesn't let them to do what they want.
Yeah, I get it. You told me, we did a quick tech rehearsal before we came on air to make sure that the system worked and everything. So you mentioned when we were chatting off air that you're in Istanbul at the moment and you're doing a separate project in Istanbul, is that right?
Yeah, my work is in Istanbul, is also with the Syrian refugees. I train them on photojournalism using the usual camera, not mobile, but it's same aims, same. So I was here like 1 month before, and I trained around 10 participants, 10 Syrian refugees on photojournalism, and also I shared a web page about the work. About my last work, I can share with you later. Then after the nice feedback from the participant and from the donor, we decided to do another workshop here at the same place in Sultan Bailey. It's a region. It's for where the Syrian refugees are live. Like the most popularity is here. So we are now in the last days of my training here with the 11 participants. From Syria. They are living here in Istanbul. My participants here, they are not going to school because they have a lot of issues. That they have to work. They have to help their family. So they are around 15 years old and 21, 22 years old. They are not going to school, and now they are attending my training for 2 weeks. And we already had a photo walk last week, and tomorrow we are going to a nice place also to have a photo walk together, to shoot stories about Syrian refugees, about Istanbul, and to have their photos and to publish their photos on photo exhibition on 9th of November. If you would like to join us in Istanbul on 9th November, that would be really nice.
I think I might be in Qatar, but thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so that will be a good opportunity to them. And, I heard from them, we are very happy here. Now we feel like we exist. We can do something. We can talk with people very well. We can introduce ourselves. So the training about photography or mobile journalism is not just giving them a technique and that's it. It's prepare them to be productive in life, to have a career later, to think about their future in a nice way, even if they are living in very bad condition and escape from war.
Yeah, well, the whole essence of the conference for the last 5th year now, the whole essence has been this idea of giving a voice to the voiceless. It's a tagline that Al Jazeera has been using for years. But for me, that's the essence of MOJO. We have an interesting question down here from Marcel Mohammed. I think it's MOJO journalism is still weak, even among Lebanese journalists. How do you plan to encourage the Lebanese journalists as well to develop their MOJO skills? So I guess what he's referring to is not refugees, but basically mainstream journalists. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess in Lebanon, it's really hard. Still in Lebanon, we have the conflict between digital media and traditional media. So we are a little bit late. So it's a long way to convince or to let the journalist work on MOJO. But I guess we have a new journalist. I guess Marcel, one of them, they want to learn MOJO. They want to learn mobile journalism. To them, before the institution and the big TV station in Lebanon. So that we hope to do with you, with our journalists in Lebanon, to work together on Mojo and mobile journalism to build this community in Lebanon and together.
It's a good answer. I mean, I don't think that's unique to Lebanon. I would have to say, from my tuppence, Marcel, I travel quite a bit with the job that I do, training people like Sarah. And a lot of the mainstream broadcasters are still very, very slow to move away from the traditional production methodology. This is something that I touched on briefly with Eleanor. So she did mention, actually, of her own volition, that they use Mojo to completely create the content. It's shot, edited, graphic, titled, and shared, all from Mojo. That's rare. It's unfortunate it's rare, because the potential is there, and I think RT is, to give them credit, really, really proven that concept. But having worked with a lot of other broadcasters, like, I think part of it is driven by a kind of reticence to abandon what is perceived as technical quality. I don't think the audience care, but that's my own tuppence, and I used to be a broadcast engineer, just for the record. And then the second part of it is, I think it's often in big organizations, it's union resistance to change as well. And part of it, I think, is also driven by this idea, and I had this myself when I used to do training in RTE. People would say, you can't seriously expect me to walk in and interview someone with that little phone when I'm used to going in with the big €80,000 camera and the lights and the boom pause and everything. But I think news is shifting. I think the business model for news is shifting dramatically. And I think the fundamental thrust, and the reason that this was the topic for the first chat, was news, by the nature of the way it's made right now, is a bottleneck. You know, the resources are extremely expensive to make it. The resources are extremely expensive to share it through traditional channels. And yet mobile, as an end-to-end production system, getting stuff created and sharing with the audience, completely and utterly bypasses that. And I'm expecting, certainly in the next 2 to 3 years, as we get towards 5G, that will only continue to grow, whether that's in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, for that matter. Sarah, I'll circle back onto it. What's next for you? What's if you can tell us? If you can't tell us, that's okay. I don't put you on the spot, but what are your next projects?
Next project? Can we say later? Can we talk about it later?
Okay. We'll talk about it after. All right. Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Okay,
we hope that we're still working with the Syrian refugees, with refugees all over the world. You know, I heard a question, like, I don't know if it's good or not, like, I can share it with you. Like, someone told me, why do you train Syrian refugees on mobile journalism? Why do you not train journalists and they can produce stories about Syrian refugees? And this was really like, yeah, you are right, but you already know you are journalists, so you can find your way. You can find how to work. You can pay for training to have the skills to be Mojo or mobile journalist, but they cannot afford anything. Even they think about the transportation and about the meal, they cannot afford even $10 for a 1-day training. So that's what my answer.
Yeah. Do you think at some point, given the volume of people that you've trained, I mean, 180 trainees is a big number of people over 6 months, I think you said. Could you see them forming a kind of a pop-up newsroom, a digital newsroom in their own right, where they could tell stories that are not being told by, I keep using the word mainstream media, but you know what I mean by that, as in the perspective will be very different when you're in it.
Yeah. We have a big number now. Big number for Syrian refugees trained on mobile journalism, but I guess it's a long way. We train them with basics and to produce stories, but not all of them start producing. So I can follow up with someone, and we all already in contact, and they send me their photo, their video, and I gave them feedback. But we just start with them. We need a long way to let them to produce a nice video to be published in news and TV station, and this need more work with them. Maybe our next plan can to have advanced training to the same trainees before, and this will be very good. We train them in next level. We grow up
next level.
Them. Yeah.
I think one of the fundamental problems that I've experienced myself is that, and this is more so an observation of businesses, if you will, is that there's this perception that you can just do a day or two and that's enough. That's all the people need. Whereas actually the thing about mobile, from my experience, has been that it's continually evolving. There's always new stuff coming on stream, whether that's hardware or apps or workflows or practices and accessories. So it's a kind of a continuous learning process, and they need that form of mentoring to kind of keep the momentum going.
Yes. They have also to keep going and be updated all the time, what is new, and follow up the digital media, because it's really go up very fast.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Listen, Sarah, I won't keep you anymore because I know you also were under time pressure, and you've been very generous with your time, and I very much appreciate it. So thanks a million for joining us. I'll just put your Twitter account up on this as well. It's SARAHTEIT, isn't that right?
Wait.
Your Twitter account.
SARAHTEIT, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's right. How do you, I meant to ask you this at Mojo Fest. How do you pronounce your second name?
My name.
Second name. Say it again.
Hatayt.
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 Yeah, perfect.
Hey, okay, there you go. I don't know how many different attempts I made. I got it wrong every time. So thank you for clarifying. That's great. Okay, listen, I'll let you go. Thanks a million for joining the chat, Sarah. Very much appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, so it's coming up to 12:40. I did create a poll. I don't know if you can see that. It should be on your screen somewhere if you want to dip into it at all. A couple of people have also bumped in their questions. What about a second camera phone? We got that one. Do you know any good examples of radio stations that use Mojo for creating audio and video content? That's a very interesting and timely question, because I'm literally just back from doing a couple of training courses with radio stations here in Ireland. And this is pretty much the discussion that everyone is having. Is the audio from mobile journalism when you're shooting video good enough for broadcast on radio? And my answer is twofold. The first thing is, I would not recommend anyone just use the audio off the microphones that come on your smartphone, and I mean that for iOS or Android. There's a huge range of microphones available on the market that will plug into your phone, either through the Lightning adapter or the USB-C adapter. There's more planned for this year that I can't talk about, but I'm privy to. And basically, those microphones are coming from all the big professional brands, the likes of Shure and Sennheiser and others. And ultimately, you can get broadcast quality sound on a phone. If you were to look at the evolution of Mojo over the last 6, 7, 8 years, I mean, BBC Radio, to give them credit, and RT, from my experience, to give them credit, NRK also, they were all very early adopters into mobile journalism. And it was radio that went first. It was radio reporters that were recording audio documentaries and audio packages on their phones using a limited selection of microphones at the time, whereas we're far more, we have far more choice now. And the second thing is that, like, if you use a professional video app, and I'll name check a few here, but you know where I'm going with this, basically, the likes of Filmic Pro or Mavis or whatever it might be, those apps can sample at 48 kilohertz. That's above CD quality, more than good enough, technically more than good enough for broadcast on radio. And at the same time, it's all about using the same awareness, being mindful of the right microphone for the right situation, and being able to make sure that you're aware of ambient sound and noise that might compromise the sound, just as you would if you were doing it as a radio package. So that would be my personal reply. And Francesco just said, which is the role of the audio in your video language? Don't you think that with wireless mics, everything changed? Not too sure I 100% get that question, Francesco, to be honest. Which is the role of audio in your video language? I think it might be related to the same question above. I think wireless mics are great because they free you up to get away from the camera, although there's a paradox in that as well, which is that wireless mics are great when you have a VJ camera or a broadcasting NG camera, because you also have a 30x zoom lens, whereas I'm sure that one of the sole remaining limitations of Mojo is zoom. A lot of the newer phones obviously have 2 cameras. Those cameras can have up to 2, maybe 4 times zoom, but that's it. But at the end of the day, wireless mics, yeah, they bring a lot of advantages, but so far those wireless mics are also substantially more expensive than a lot of the wired solutions. I think the Bluetooth stuff that's coming on stream, like the Sennheiser memory mic and the what's it called? The Insta mic and a few others like that. I think those are bringing some interesting propositions into the market based on price point and functionality. If they could get over the issue with live streaming, I think that would be a huge step forward for Mojo. But I started a thread recently on Twitter, and Twan Speerts from the Netherlands commented on it, where he basically said that he had seen a prototype of a Boya wireless microphone system that was 2 channels. So a rival, if you like, for the Samsung Go Mic mobile solution, which is also currently probably one of the most cost-efficient stereo channels or stereo solutions for Mojo. But there's lots out there, something we could do an entire other chat on at another stage. I'm conscious of time. I'm just going to dip into these last couple of comments and questions. Len just said, totally agree, workflow involves extracting audio. Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. Shoot once, share it to everything. You can pull your photographs, you can get your sound off it, you have your video. Makes an awful lot of sense. I'm going to a newsroom where Mojo most equals crime scene shots or montages of photos with captions. I may have to use my own kit initially to show what can be achieved with addition of decent mics and software. I'm happy to do so, but my current lapel mics are pretty old. What would you recommend for a plug-in phone? How much do you have to spend, Jane? Because basically there's everything on the market from some of the Boya labs that are like 20 euros on eBay up to the Shure Rode microphone labs that are all wired via the TRRS adapter, which are around the 50, 60 euro mark. And then if you want to go up a step above that, you have the option of wireless solutions, like I just said a second ago, the Samsung Go Mic Mobile. And if you want to go for pro grade audio, then you have the likes of the Sennheiser Clip Mic Digital, or if you really want to go full high end, the MKE2 Digital. But that's a huge range in price. That's 20 euros for the Boya, all the way down to the other end of the scale, which is like 500 euros for the Sennheiser Clip Mic Digital, which basically is exactly the same capsule that's used in broadcast studio news all over the world. So you're paying to basically hit that. Mid-range, I just got your reply. I guess you would expect to pay in the region of 70-ish euros for a wired microphone solution. The one that's in my kit, just for the record, I basically have a Shure MV88, which is the one that I use for the radio training, because it's diverse. It can turn your phone into a Zoom recorder and also flip over to give you an ambient mic with a good wind cover. And for interviews, I use a Sennheiser Clip Mic Digital. But I actually also just recently got a Samsung Go Mic Mobile kit with both the handheld and the lapel receiver. So you'll see a bit of both coming from me sometime soon. Looking for something that could be rolled out. Again, the key thing that I would say when you go into an organization to do training like that, and you're asked the question of what kit should we buy, is to caution them to not go for the cheapest gear in the market, because the risk of all cheaper gear is you get something on eBay for 15 quid maybe, but it's going to break pretty soon, because they're not built for long-term use. They're built really for the kind of consumer market where you're going to maybe do 1 video a year or 2 videos a year. And you need to get something that's going to have really good build quality. So I would recommend for an audio solution that's a minimum you should be looking to spend would probably be around the sort of 50 euro mark for a single microphone solution. Phyllis from the Edinburgh Reporter, I assume she means Rode Reporter with XLR, which works beautifully, and not all you do. Yeah, so the Rode Reporter, yes, Rode, I think the adapter, which is the iXLR, which will go into an XLR microphone, basically, I think it's about 140 euros. Very popular with a lot of the radio journalists I know who want to preserve their original handheld reporter mic and just need a bridge to go from XLR into the Lightning adapter. At some stage, we could sit down and do a good deep dive on technical aspects of one of these chats. There's quite a few people we could dip into who are in the development of both hardware and software who might be interesting to hear from. But I want to wrap this month's one up for now. We may also look at the idea of doing these on a fortnightly basis if they start to take off and if people are interested in hearing more. I'm interested in your suggestions for what we do next. So thanks for joining and participating in the conversation, to everyone who's commented and contributed questions. The next one of these will be, I guess, in 3 or 4 weeks time, date to be confirmed, and will be published by Thompson Foundation. In the interim, I should really do a quick plug, because obviously this conversation is part of the Thompson Foundation Journalism Now e-learning platform. I have a couple of courses up there at the moment, which I'm actually in the middle of updating, so they may go offline for a little while, but they'll be back soon. But if you're interested in learning more about those, there is a call to action button on my screen. It's just there. Not too sure where it is on your screen, but that should give you access to a special discounted code to get on any of the courses that are currently live. And if you haven't already found the link, it's thompsonfoundation.org/e-learning. And you can get more information about all the different courses that are online. That's it from me for this one. Again, thanks a million for joining in. I hope you found the Crowdcast application pretty good quality. I know there was a little bit of digital breakup on both the interviews. That's probably more to do with bandwidth than anything to do with the platform, but I was quite happy with it from my end. So I'll be interested to do the playback. And someone asked earlier on, is the playback? Yes, it is. The beauty of Crowdcast is not only is it streaming on the Crowdcast platform natively, it's on Facebook and also on YouTube. And all of those recordings should be available for catch up later. I'll just need to double check that with Sarah Lone, who is in the group of people that are online at the moment. Sarah is the social media manager and basically technical guru in the Thompson Foundation. So Sarah might be able to comment on that if she's still online. Anyway, enough from me for now. Thanks a million for joining in. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And if you celebrated, a fantastic Samhain or Halloween. And I will see you in a few weeks' time. Bye for now. How do I hang up? Oh, I saw it.